So my prediction is that on Monday, you're going to see a precipitous fall in the stock market. And many people are going to be looking at their 401ks, their stock market portfolios, if you're lucky enough to have one, God bless you, and crying about it and blaming Donald Trump because of the tariffs. The question is there a method to the madness? Will the tariffs remain long term? And what is the purpose of all of this? First of all, part of the reason for enacting tariffs is because Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has to refinance America's debt because the last administration loaded up on the short-term maturing bonds. They sold those things off, and we have to refinance a ton of debt. I think the number might be $9 trillion, but I could be off directionally correct, over the next year. And Scott Bessent wants cheaper rates because he wants America to have to pay less in terms of interest rates to everybody who is lending us money. So part of the good news here is that interest rates have dropped. What does that do for the American consumer? That means that the mortgages are dropping. And if you're paying off credit card bills, hey, you're going to get a little bit off. That's definitely a help to some people. I don't want to be in that situation myself, but that's another benefit to this. Interest rates dropping, generally good for the economy, generally good for risk assets like stocks because they're willing to take on more risk. Now, in terms of countries, you might note the fact that this might be just a negotiation ploy other than for certain items. I'm talking about, for example, semiconductors, steel, anything that you have to use to make a drone in the United States, that must be done here. Antibiotics. If you are not able to make drones internally, we are going to be a vassal state, as Naval Ravikant stated on Twitter. This must be done internally. You do not want to expose America to the risk of suppliers not giving us what we ask for when we demand it. There are certain things that you have to do, engage in, where you're going to incur some inefficiencies. You're not going to be able to make it as cheaply, but you have to make steel within, because right now China is cranking out ships. They're cranking out everything. And if it comes to the point of war, much like during COVID times when China kept all of the PPP equipment that we thought that we needed because we were following the science and we thought that we would need it internally, China kept that for themselves. So you can see that nations operate in their own selfish best interest when it suits them, when the benefit of doing so outweighs the negative cost of breaking the contract. Therefore, what Donald Trump wants is for America to be self-sufficient in some things, some of the things that I just mentioned. Now, there have been 50 countries that have come forward and are saying that they are willing to lower tariffs against the United States. Now, why does the United States have the cards here? Because we are the richest country, because we are the biggest importer of all things. So one example that I just looked at is the country of Vietnam. They export to America about $131.9 billion here, according to what I read on Grok. We export to Vietnam $13 billion. So Vietnam has a certain amount of tariffs for things like automobiles that are sold in Vietnam are much more costly. There's a tremendous amount of tariff that they place on them. Other things they charge lower rates for. But the US says, hey, you're importing all your stuff here for free. Okay, then how about we are able to do so with you from our domestic companies? And because there's such a huge trade gap balance between Vietnam and the States, Vietnam comes forward and says, we just want zero tariffs, and we will give that to you because they are going to be paying out far more to the United States than we are locally within Vietnam. So it's to their benefit, but at least it balances trade. And I'm not somebody that says that there can never be a trade deficit with another country, because sometimes people produce things more efficiently. Sometimes they don't want to buy what we have. That's fine. That's part of trade. Trade benefits everybody who's involved because we are making a decision to purchase a product or to sell us a product that we would have a harder time making for ourselves. So this is a net benefit for the whole world. I'm in favor of free trade, but what I'm not in favor of is penalizing U.S. companies because they're in the United States and erecting all the trade barriers, for example, that Europe has from our products that are trying to enter into the market, and giving them free ability to export their products here, thus hurting domestic production, which is part of the reason that Trump is putting on these tariffs. Now, he has stated that for the last 40 years that he thinks that tariffs are a net benefit for the United States, and there's no reason we shouldn't put it on. But he says, for example, in the case of Japan, when he went on Oprah, he said that they're ripping us off. It's impossible to export anything over there. So Japan is another country that has come to America and said, we want free trade. We want to lower our tariffs. This is another one. Argentina is negotiating for 0% tariffs on each side. Now, if Donald Trump were to do that and remove the tariffs, and now U.S. companies were able to export their products to other locales, to other countries around the planet, the stock market is going to zoom upwards. So in terms of whether or not you sell your stock and panic, not financial advice, I personally am not doing so. I look at a long-term horizon in terms of what people can produce, in terms of the net production and output that we are going to have, and with AI raising productivity on a scale that is absolutely unimaginable. It might lessen the cost for everything because we are producing so much more at such a lesser cost than we were doing previously. I mean, we're talking about robo-taxis, and yes, it's going to displace some workers, but you're going to be able to get to the airport for $5 versus $50. That's just the reality, because the majority of what you're paying for is the labor, the person behind the wheel. So the point being is that you're going to see some pain. I don't want anybody to panic. I want you to stay strong and hope that there is a method to the madness with Donald Trump and a strategy to what he's doing, and know the fact that just with doing this, the price of gasoline is dropping, interest rates are dropping, and we are going to be able to refinance the debt at a much lower price than we otherwise would. So for example, if rates were at 5% versus 4% at a $10 trillion that you are borrowing, you would be paying $500 billion a year in interest on that alone. $500 billion a year, and at least at 4%, that would be $100 billion difference. This is the problem with all of the past administrations that have piled on the debt. So we should hopefully applaud Donald Trump when this is all said and done. Of course, the Democrats are using the pain to go out there and engage in a cover revolution and pay people to go out and protest and make it seem like it's completely organic and grassroots. But the people that are taking it on the chin are those who have big portfolios. And with cheaper gas prices, that benefits the man with absolutely zero. So are they going to care? Maybe. Maybe there's going to be some job losses. But when U.S. is able to export their products that we produce here at a zero tariff rate, that also raises and enhances the United States and the ability to manufacture here, the ability to export, and the ability to hire people because the costs are less. Why should the U.S. get screwed with our exports, whereas every other country can export to the United States for basically free? That's what Donald Trump is asking. That is the primary question. I want to know your thoughts in the comments section below, guys. Peace. Have a fantastic day.